So far, we have completed the fan lights, the chin lights, the main control board, and the main wiring harness. So now, it's time to make the wiring harness that connects these two boards together. So, rip off around a 6-foot section of single-stranded wire and cut it to about 1.5 feet in length. So once you've done that, go ahead and strip these wires 1/4 inch on each side. Grab your crimp pins, your crimp tool, and crimp each side of each wire. So add crimp pins to this side and this side of all 5 wires. So now that all these wires are crimped, I have 5 wires and each side of each wire is crimped. Take your single crimp housings and insert each wire into a crimp housing. Okay, now that all these wires are crimped with the housings connected, it's time to wire up these boards. Let's take one wire and we'll start on the left here. So take one wire and plug it in on the very left. And take that same wire and plug it in on the left on this board. So you see that the C here is connected to the C there. So take the next wire, plug it in into B, and on this board also plug it into B. So just connect all these corresponding pins on this board to this board. And lastly, ground here to ground there. Time to connect this board to this board over here. So take your wire, rip off make another 2 1.5 foot sections, and then strip both ends of the wire here. Now that both ends are stripped, crimp one side of the wire, leave the other side just stripped without any crimp connectors. So crimp these 2 wires separately. Both the wires are crimped. Then take your crimp housings and insert your wires into them. So now you're going to have to solder these wires onto the main control board. So take one wire, and solder it to right here. Solder one wire here and the other one here. Okay, so now that both wires are soldered, take the wire that's at the top, which is labeled ground here, follow it all the way. So that's connected to the top ground, and then on the right chin piece, plug it into this 2-pin socket. So plug it in on the right as it is ground, like so. All right. Now take the other wire, the bottom one, out. There's a little plus there, and take this wire and connect it on the left to the pin labeled VCC. Okay, so now this board and this board both have power from this board. All that's left to do is plug in the individual fan lights, which I'll show how to do in a second, and connect the power here. So let's start with the power. So take your Ethernet cable and cut off an end. Then take about 3.5 feet of your cable and cut it to about a 3.5 foot length. So like so. Okay? And now you're gonna have to get these individual wires out of the cable. So the easiest way to do this is just take wire clippers or scissors and just cut the insulation like this. So once you've cut a little bit, you can just pull these wires out. So an Ethernet cable usually has 4 pairs of wires. All you need is 2 pairs. So I just grabbed the orange and the blue pairs. So now strip these wires. Take one end of both wires and you will solder it onto the main power board. So let's just take the orange one and solder it on like so. So we'll have the orange wire going to the 4.5V and the white wire going to the GND connection. Alright, we have that soldered. Now take the other wire you have, blue wire in my case, and we will connect it like so. We'll have the blue wire going to the 6V and the white wire going to the GND connection here. And now we have a blue wire going to the 6V, the blue and white wire going to the GND, and the orange and white wire going to this GND, and we have the orange wire going to the 4.5V. So now we have to connect these to the battery pack. Okay, so now that we have these wires connected, it's time to connect them to the battery packs. So take your 3 C-cell battery pack and your 4 AA battery pack. Take the black wires and twist them together. Okay, now take these 2 wires there coming off of the main control board here, and then take the white wires, which are both connected to ground, and also twist them together. These twisted wires that go to ground here, both grounds here, and connect them to the black wire here. The black wire is coming off of the 2 battery packs. Okay, so now using the color code that I'm using here, the 4.5 is the orange wire, so I'm going to take the orange wire and connect it to the red wire that's coming off of the 3 C-cell battery pack. And since I'm using blue for the 6 volt here, I'm going to take the blue wire and I'm going to connect it to the red wire that comes off of the 4 AA battery pack. Now that all these wires are twisted, solder each of these connections. Take some electrical tape and isolate them from each other and secure the connection. Now both battery packs are connected to the main control board. So now all we need to do is connect the individual fan lights to the connectors here. So with the resistor on the left, take your connections that come off of the main control board, your connectors, your 3-pin connectors, and plug in the fan lights into them. Alright, so all of the boards are plugged in now. So take 3 C cells, 4 AA's, and put them in these 2 battery holders. Now that the batteries are plugged in, there's a switch on, at least on my battery pack there's a switch. So let's flip that switch to on, and we see that all of the boards light up, and the patterns are going. Sorry, it's a massive mess, but once you untangle it, it looks a lot better. So yeah, and I'll show what it looks like when properly laid out and everything. So I've cleaned up all of this wiring a little bit. I took little strips of duct tape and taped these sections together. So when you turn on the battery pack, this is what it should look like. Alright, so there are only 2 things that you need to do. First, you need to cut the color diffusers to size and mount them on the chin bars. And you might want to get a little bit of hot glue and reinforce all these connections so they don't come undone. Okay, so to make the color diffusers, take your plastic material here and cut off all the clear sections. Okay, now that the color diffusers are trimmed, you're going to have to fold very carefully along this black section here. So make a right 90-degree crease right along where the color meets the black here on both sides. So now both of these are creased. So now take some electrical tape and rip off about an inch. Take that, put it on the side of the color bars, like so. And then take another inch or so and put it on the other side. Alright, and then take the color diffuser with the red bars up and just secure them to one of the boards, one of the chin boards. So the color diffusers are done now. Now you want to plug in your hot glue gun and reinforce all these connections and apply hot glue along these connections. So the chin boards are reinforced. Now it's time to reinforce the connections on the main control board. So apply hot glue here, here, and here. Also on the back here. So that's the control board reinforced. And then reinforce all of these sidebars. So apply hot glue here. And with that, you're done. All you have to do is just make the housings.